Weather, this is Eric Nelson. Today, possible scattered showers between 4 and 5 p.m. A high of 86 and a low around 65. Friday will be sunny with a high near 89 and a low of 66. Saturday, sunny with a high near 87 and a low of 67. EatLocalMinnesota.com's restaurant of the week is The Great Wall. The Great Wall restaurant has been providing a delicious mix of both Szechuan and Peking dishes since 1981. Check out their location just north of 50th and France in Edina.
Good afternoon, AM 950, Progressive Voice of Minnesota. Doug Pagitt in, drive time. Glad to be back. I've been off for the last couple of days, doing some traveling. I'll tell you a bit about that in a moment here, what I'm doing when I travel. But really glad to be back on the air 2 days here after our primary elections. So much has gone on for us in the state of Minnesota, and so many important decisions were made. And I just want to start by saying, to anyone whose candidate didn't win, I know you. If you're a faithful AM 950 listener, you already know this. Those of you that are watching on Facebook, you may be tied in already as well to this way of thinking. But it's really important that you stay engaged. I know for a lot of us who, if you were voting for someone else, and if you were pulling for them, and if you were rooting for them, and if it mattered so much to you on Tuesday, and they didn't win, it feels like something happened in 2016 where the Democratic candidate for president didn't win. And then it happens that your chosen candidate in 2018 didn't win. And it can start to build and make you feel like the people that you're rooting for, the people you're voting for, the people you're supporting, the people you may have given your money to, that they're not winning. And that can take the wind out of your sails. That can take the hope out of your heart. That can take the drive out of your passion. And I'm just imploring and asking you to hang in there, to know that that's part of what it means to be in a democracy, and in a democracy where we have choices to make. That very often the one that we're pulling for isn't the one who wins. In fact, if you think about elections, and you think about primaries and general elections, most people don't win, right? Only one person wins each election. So not winning does not mean that your ideas don't matter. It doesn't mean that your passions don't matter. It doesn't mean that your commitments are set aside. It means that somebody else won, and I would implore all the people, especially in the Democratic Party, and any of those of you who are finding yourself newly enraged or newly engaged in politics, to stick with Democrats, even if the one you were pulling for didn't win. It's one of the things that happens when you have a crowded field. I'm thinking back to our governor's call last Friday when we talked about the governor's race and all the callers who called in. And they were pulling for different people, and the majority of the people who called in and were so passionate, their candidate didn't win. But this isn't our time to give up. This is our time to stay together. This is our time to stick with each other. This is our time to build something even greater than what we would have imagined had our candidate won. That's our call. That's what we all have to do. That's our contribution to this. Is even when your candidate isn't the one that's going to be on the ballot, is how do you take that passion? How do you take that commitment? How do you take those ideas that were so important to you, and to infuse those into the system for the candidate that now represents the Democratic Farm Labor Party in the governor's race, in the senator's race, in congressional races. This is our time to stick together. So I know it might be a little too soon for some of you. You might be feeling that, hey, don't bring up the stick together conversation quite yet. We're less than 48 hours from the poll results coming back. But I think that's precisely the time. This is the time we have to talk about this. This is the time we have to lean in to each other and not lean away from one another. So it really matters. Electing Democrats across the country and electing DFL-supported candidates in the state of Minnesota, I don't think has ever been more important. I would even argue that maybe there are going to be times in the future, and there have been times in the past, when the Democratic Party isn't the one that represents your values. It's possible that you're more progressive than the Democratic Party. I feel myself that way on a number of issues. It might even feel like the Democratic Party is not an ideal home for you. You might think that you're more free-flowing, that you're more committed to other issues. Fair enough. Totally get it. But right now, we all need Democrats to win across the board. The Republicans have had their chance, and what they have done with it is to support Donald Trump, to elect Donald Trump, to make fiscal decisions in our nation and in our state, to make ethical decisions around the nation and in our state, to make moral decisions, to make political decisions that have been hazardous to the well-being of the people of this state. We cannot let this continue any longer. 2018 is going to be a wave year. Stick with us. Stay with it. Don't give up. Don't give up the ghost. Don't give up the hope yet. That's what we need. I'd love to hear from any of you if you've got a perspective on this, especially those of you that are feeling like you need a little pep talk today. 952-946-6205. Would love to cheer you up a bit. We're going to be talking about the environment with Steve Morse at 4:30. But right now we're talking about the environment of the heart of people in Minnesota, the voters in Minnesota. So I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to hear how you're thinking about it, especially hear from those of you whose candidate didn't come in where you wanted them to in the ballot, how you're thinking about it. Maybe your chance to encourage the people who have been a long-term supporter of the candidates who did win, or maybe it's your chance to encourage your fellow second or third place supporters in staying with us and staying with the candidates who've won. I mean, I'll be honest, not all my candidates won. I'm right there with you. If any of you ran the table and all the people you wanted to win won, well, give the rest of us a minute, right? Give us a second to regain our breath, to catch our breath, and to join in. I'm broadcasting today, by the way, from Grand Haven, Michigan. I'll take Michigan's a fine state. Michigan's a lovely state. Visiting some friends here. They're on they are kind of permanently on vacation. It feels like we're on a bit of a vacation. Michigan's a fine state. Beautiful. It's like a little Minnesota. So it's a lovely place, but it's no Minnesota. We still live in the greatest state in the union. And as a tribute to that, this part of West Michigan, where I am, right on Lake Michigan, is very well known these days for tap houses, brew houses, breweries, microbrews. They've kind of been that way for a while. And my friend shared with me the Pigeon Hill Brewing Company's beer called the Walter Blonde Ale. So he tells me about this beer, right, and says, the Walter Blonde Ale. Get it?